Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Ravens Call. I'm your host again, Tyler Cameron. If you don't know what this podcast consists of, just go to my 1-minute intro video explaining the podcast, or you can just follow along. I'll be putting the week-by-week basis, so whichever week you want to start out on, you'll know on the title. My podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can find all the links to those in my streaming services, or look up the Ravens Call podcast on Instagram. On that note, hope everyone is having a great day and ready to listen to some exciting NFL and Baltimore Ravens news. All right. So we had a good amount of games going on this week. Good amount of upsets, good amount of good wins for some teams. So let's start out with my wife's team, the Broncos. So the Broncos came out, and this is a game I thought was going to be a lot closer, but Broncos defense is just amazing. Broncos defense, I think, is a top 3 defense in the NFL right now and playing really well. Broncos improved to 4-3, and New Orleans started out 2-0, and they've lost 5 straight. They've had some injuries just make things worse, and now Rashid Shaheed is out for the year, which that really kills them. Olave was out for this game. Kamara did not have a good game, to where I think Kamara could be someone who could be on the trading block. They're 2-5. I don't think there's a chance for them to come back and improve. I think that this may be a chalk year. Kamara is on the last year of his contract. It could be vital for them to get some draft picks so they can improve the team, but you never know. Score was 33-10. Highest scoring game I've seen from the Broncos in a while. They were able to run the ball at will, able to pass where need be. It was very good to see. Sutton had 0 receptions, 0 targets. Courtland Sutton, their number 1 receiver, and yet they were able to just move the ball with ease, especially in the run game. Bo Nix, 16-26, 164 yards. Not much in the passing game. No touchdowns, no interceptions, which is really good. He did his part. Spencer Rattler, 25-35, 172 yards, 6 sacks. That's amazing. We'll get to Denver's defense, because Denver needs to be talked about as a top defense going forward. Saints rushing 97 yards between 4 people. They were able to stop the run pretty well. Denver's rushing 225 yards. That's kind of like my team in the Baltimore Ravens with the run game. They were able to run the ball at will. Javonte Williams, 14 carries, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was a beast. Bo Nix, 10 carries, 75 yards. McLaughlin, 4 carries, 35 yards. It was a really good game for them in the run department. They were able to pass the ball a little bit. Troy Franklin, the rookie that played with Bo Nix, 5 receptions for 50 yards. Their tight end, 3 receptions, 41 yards. Javonte Williams was able to get back and get some receptions as well, but not as much in the pass game. They were just able to run the ball at will. Saints passing was there here and there. They don't have the weapons to sustain it. Huge thing here is 2 fumbles and 2 loss for Spencer Rattler. That is something that we will be talking about here in a second. But the defense for the Broncos, 6 sacks, 11 QB hits, and a touchdown. If you didn't watch this game, it was a bloodbath. Spencer Rattler fumbled the ball. Cody Barton picked it up, was able to run it all the way in for a touchdown. If you started the Denver's defense, which I would have suggested you do, you would probably won this week, because their defense scored a lot of points for you, only gave up 10 points, and the touchdown at the end was kind of just a pity touchdown. At that point, the game was over at that point. So Broncos 33, Saints 10. It was a good game for them. Go into the London game, which was really good for Jacksonville at 2-5. Jacksonville didn't look that good, nor did the Patriots. In retrospect, Trevor Lawrence 15-20, 193 yards and a touchdown. Drake May played really well, 26-37, 276 and 2 touchdowns. He played really well. I mean, I know people are going to say, well, he lost. Yeah, but he was able to pass the ball. They looked good at the start and just kind of flatlined towards the end. Jacksonville was able to run the ball with Tank Bigsby. I think Tank Bigsby is going to become that new number one, and ETN may be looking to get traded because ETN isn't as effective as Tank Bigsby right now. The New England rushing game was terrible. 15 carries, 38 yards. They were able to pass the ball really well. Hunter Henry is a really good tight end for Drake May. 8 receptions, 92 yards. But yeah, it was just a sluggish game in general. There was a punt return for Jacksonville, 96 yards. You don't see many of those right now in the league with kick returns or with punt returns, so it was really nice to see a punt return. But Jacksonville was able to win 32-16, so it was a pretty dominant win for them. The upset of the week, I guess to say, I don't know, because we'll go into it later, and you guys can tell me which was a bigger upset. There are a couple upsets, so to speak, but in the minds of, could it have been a close game? No. The Seahawks and the Falcons. I thought the Falcons had this in the bag. Seahawks have been playing terrible. They lost. They were 3-0, lost 3 straight. They haven't been able to play themselves, but this was a real good game for them. Kirk Cousins was playing good, and then he just threw 2 picks and kind of cost them a lot. Geno Smith, 18-28, 207, 2 touchdowns. He had a good game. They were able to run the ball with Walker. Bijan Robinson is finally back with his carries. He played amazing in the pass game and the run game. DK was able to break off a big one, but DK actually ended up getting injured. It may be a week-to-week thing for him. I don't think that something too bad's going to happen. But Kirk Cousins, 2 picks, lost a fumble. So it was a pretty self-destructing game for the Falcons. And the Falcons defense, I talked about at the very start of the season, thinking that they were going to be sneaky because, you signed Judon. You trade for Judon. You sign Justin Simmons with, Bates. I'm thinking to myself, I think these guys have a good shot. Yeah, no, they did not. This defense is not up to par yet. Maybe it will turn it up in the end, but it was not a great game for them. Other than that, wasn't much to it. Seahawks got up really early and never looked back. So it was I think it was a big upset, big dominating win for the Seahawks. I think that this will gain their momentum for them. Right now the Falcons caught a break because we'll talk about it later with the Tampa Bay game. Falcons are in the driver's seat for first in their division going forward with everything that's happening in their division. I'll go over this one really quick. This one was not a shocker. Bills 34, Titans 10, pretty easy. Mason Rudolph didn't play that well. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, threw 40 times. Pollard got pretty good runs. Buffalo didn't really have to run the ball. They were able to pass the ball. Josh Allen's back to his elite status again. Still no picks. I'm happy for Josh Allen. I think he's of a lot of criticism that he's had to have with, people talking about how he's always constantly throwing picks. Well, this season he hasn't thrown one yet. So very good on him. Running game was decent. Josh Allen, 323. Amari Cooper, first game, 4 receptions, 66 yards and a touchdown. Really good game for him. Coleman, the rookie, comes out, 4 receptions, 125 yards. It was a good passing game for them. For the Tennessee Titans, I'm really thinking you're going to need to start trading and getting some picks because you guys are going downhill. DeAndre Hopkins, one of the top receivers in the game at one point. 1 reception, -2 yards. and that was his only target. Calvin Ridley, 3 receptions, 42 yards with 9 targets. Tyler Boyd, these are elite receivers that could easily make a difference on some teams. DeAndre Hopkins, if you're listening, which you probably aren't, I'd like to see you in a Ravens jersey. You can come win and come help us in the playoffs. Not a very good game, just in general. I mean, Buffalo had this game on the run. They're 5-2. They're pretty big up on their division right now, so that's good on them. Now for the most interesting game we're probably going to talk about from a AFC North talk was this game. So Bengals won 21-14. Bengals should have actually been killing this team, but surprisingly enough, they didn't. The main thing that we're going to talk about, and you can kind of see it over here to the right here, which is the Deshaun Watson getting carted up. So he tore his Achilles, or ruptured his Achilles, I'm sorry. He was trying to do a quarterback sneak, and it was bad. I watched it. I could tell that it just snapped. And he was done from there. The interesting part about it, and why I bring it up, is because let me paint a picture for you. The Browns are at home. This happens to your starting quarterback. The entire crowd was cheering that he was injured. The entire crowd. I don't like Deshaun Watson. Everyone here knows that. I was just shocked to see his own crowd go against him, because they want Jameis Winston as their starting quarterback from here on out. I know they do. They play the Ravens next week, so that'll be an interesting game for them to come back from. But yeah, just watching that. I mean, for me, I see it as karma. But when your own home fans are going against you, wow, really, your fan base has turned on you, and they still have to pay him so much money. So I think Deshaun Watson's trade was the worst trade to go down in NFL history. But I digress. Joe Burrow had a decent game. Deshaun Watson was playing pretty good. Then they brought in the rookie. He didn't play very well. 2 picks. They just weren't able to manage anything. Jameis Winston came in and was able to get them close at the end, but it was too little too late. Nick Chubb is back. 11 carries, 22 yards. They didn't run the ball that much because they were playing from behind a lot. But, it's good to see Nick Chubb back. I don't like the Browns, but I like Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is class act. He's really good running back. I like to see him like that. I just hope he doesn't do anything crazy this next week. He can do that against any other team but the Ravens. Chase Brown for Cincinnati was able to run the ball okay. They just don't. They're not a running team, so that's not surprising. Zach Moss, 6 carries, 7 yards. So it looks like Chase Brown may be taking over. Tillman and Njoku were the biggest stars for Cleveland. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase both had touchdowns. So, if you can lock them up, Cincinnati's not going to be going too well. They were able to get I think it was a kick return. Yep, 100-yard kick return for Cincinnati. That's what got them, I think, their first touchdown, I believe. But I could be wrong. They got a touchdown off of that. So, I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals scored 14 points against the Browns on offense, which, man, Cincinnati is a weird team. But Cincinnati goes 3-4. Browns are 1-6. So the Browns could be trading some of their defensive players here soon. Now for the second game of the week. The one is down below with the Lions and Vikings. Was the Texans and the Packers. This came down to a game-winning field goal to their new signed kicker, Brandon McManus, and he was able to convert. So the Packers won 24-22. I think that Houston was not good with their clock management, which gave the Packers too much time. Okay, so from here, CJ Stroud did not have a good game at all. 10 completions, 21 attempts, 86 yards, not even 100 yards, sacked 4 times. Jordan Love had a decent game, 24, 33, 220, but he threw 2 picks. That's his thing, is he's throwing way too many picks. Rushing game was good for both teams. Josh Jacobs and Joe Mixon had good games. Joe Mixon's really been a vital point as to what the Texans want to do. Not having Nico Collins kind of seems to be affecting CJ Stroud in the pass game because, Diggs, 5 receptions, 23 yards. Tank Dell, 4 targets, 0 receptions. It's crazy. Dobbs has looked really well ever since his little incident for Green Bay, so that's good for him. He's coming back. Josh Jacobs got in his first ever receiving touchdown for Josh Jacobs. He has played in this league, I think they said over 200 games. Over 200 games, he's never had a receiving touchdown, and he finally got one. It was a close defensive game, but it came down to field goals, and Brandon McManus, new person on the team, comes in clutch. He's been in there before. He was able to get the win for the Packers. On to the Borefest of Sunday, which was the Dolphins and the Colts. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say here. Colts were able to run the ball a little bit, so was Miami. Tyreek Hill, 1 reception, 8 yards. Jalen Waddle, 1 reception, 11 yards. Pittman, 3 receptions, 63 yards. This game was a shit show. I really think that Anthony Richardson should be benched for Joe Flacco. It's funny that I'm saying someone needs to be benched for Joe Flacco, but Richardson does not look like a good passer. He's more of a runner, and he doesn't run correctly to where he's going to get injured again. Their pass game has looked terrible. Without Jonathan Taylor, their running game's kind of iffy for the most part. Miami, their pass game looks terrible with Huntley and Boyle. So Tua is expected to maybe play this week going forward, which would be really good for Miami's receiving core. So Hill and Waddle will probably get a lot more receptions going forward. So that'll be good for them on that. But Colts win 16-10. It wasn't a pretty game. Now on to the second of the two game of the weeks. This one came down to a game-winning field goal as well. So game of the weeks come down to field goals. That's what we like to see. Unless you are for one of these teams, then it's super nerve-wracking. So Jared Goff had another freaking great game. Jared Goff needs to probably be top 5 in the MVP race, in my opinion, because his accuracy has been amazing. 22 completions, 25 attempts, really accurate, 280, 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery, he did okay, but he lost a fumble that was able to be returned for a touchdown from Minnesota's defense, and Montgomery never played again, which was tough for him. I know he was kicking himself on that. Detroit's passing game was really well. Amon-Ra St. Brown finally had his huge game, 8 receptions, 112 yards and touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery were able to put up some points there. Jameson Williams here, they're number 2, 1 reception, -4 yards. He actually just got suspended for 2 games for violating performance-enhancing substance. So he's out for 2 games. Sam Darnold had a decent game, but threw that pick that really cost him. Aaron Jones was able to run the ball effectively, 14 carries, 93 yards and touchdown. Jefferson doing Jefferson things. So it was a pretty tight game, back and forth. But it came down to a field goal, and Jake Bates has been pretty automatic for Detroit. Was able to knock it in for a win for them. Detroit looked pretty good at the start, and then Minnesota started coming back. That fumble recovery for a touchdown really helped. They were leading 28-29, but Detroit never goes away. So Detroit is now the number 1 in their division at 5-1. Minnesota's 5-1. Detroit, this division is crazy good. So Detroit is 5-1 at the 1. Minnesota's 5-1 at the 2. Packers are 5-2 at the 3. And I believe the Bears are 4-2. Am I wrong? I thought they had a bye, so yeah, they had a bye, so they're 4-2. I mean, all of them right now would be in their division game. They would actually be in the playoffs probably somehow, some way. But it was a great game to watch. Lions are now top of the NFC, in my opinion. They're the number one team right now. But going forward to the revenge game for Saquon Barkley. If you had Saquon Barkley, you should have started him for this game because you knew he was going to go off, and boy, did he. Jalen Hurts, 10 completions, 14 attempts, 114 yards, and a touchdown. He does not look like a good passer right now. I mean, look, Devontae Smith had 1 reception, -2 yards. A.J. Brown does A.J. Brown things, but it's pretty much all he does is just throw it up and A.J. Brown makes him look good at this point. They were not able to do much because they didn't really have to because they had Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 176 yards, and a touchdown. He was able to kill them in the run game and really make the Giants regret their decision, and I'm all for it. I was happy to see Saquon get a revenge game because the Giants GM is an idiot. You know, he was your star guy. He was the only thing good about your offense. Neighbors, 4 receptions, 41 yards, 8 targets. He had some words to say about Daniel Jones not finding him a lot. So that could cause some controversy. Drew Lock had to come in. They ended up benching Daniel Jones. Now, this game ended up becoming a sack game. And what I mean by that is there were 13 sacks in this game. There were, I believe, 10 at halftime. 6 for Daniel Jones and 4 for Jalen Hurts. I could be wrong, but there was at least 10 sacks at halftime. I know that. It was terrible for Daniel Jones. I mean, 14 completions, 21 attempts, 99 yards. Run game wasn't effective. Pass game wasn't either. 28-3 was the score. There you go. Giants play the Steelers, so I'm expecting the Steelers to just whoop them. Which it sucks for me because I want the Steelers to lose, but you play the Giants. Enough said. Raiders and Rams. This game came down to the wire because, you know, they ended up coming back in. So Raiders, Aiden O'Connell started playing and threw a ball. He ended up breaking his thumb, so Gardner Minshew had to come in, and Gardner Minshew cooked up a storm for the Rams. He threw 15 completions, 34 attempts, 154 yards, and 3 interceptions. So Gardner Minshew was fire. Matthew Stafford did not have his best game, 154 yards and a pick. Kyren Williams for the rushing game, that's the person they've been holding on to because Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are very vital to how successful this team does. If they are in, they have a chance to be decent. Madison had a good game for the Raiders in the rushing, 23 carries, 92 yards. Brock Bowers, another one, 10 receptions, 93 yards. He had another good game. But, and Gardner Minshew lost the ball. So he had 4 turnovers in the game. So I'm pretty sure that Gardner's going to be benched again, and they're going to be they signed Desmond Ridder, so he might start, but it was a shit show for the Raiders, which as a rooting for the Broncos on the side for me, that's what I want to see. I don't like the Raiders. I think their fans are terrible. But yeah, it was a good game for the Rams, good bounce back win. Now, sorry, that was an afternoon game. Now, let me paint you a picture. Washington and the Commanders have Jayden Daniels. You're thinking this game's going to be, you see the score 40-7. Wow, Jayden Daniels went off. Jayden Daniels didn't really play. Jayden Daniels was 2 for 2 with 6 yards. He ran 3 carries, 50 yards. He ended up leaving the game after a hit on his ribs. They said he's week to week. I'm thinking he's still going to play next week. But Marcus Mariota comes in, 18 of 23 and 2 touchdowns, 2 of 5. He played a great game. The funniest part about this is they had less than 100 yards passing. I think they had like almost 50 yards passing at half. because all they had to do was run the ball. I mean, Brian Robinson Jr., 12 carries, 71 yards and a touchdown. Jade Daniels, 3 carries, 50 yards. McNichols, 7 carries, 42 yards. Like, they were able to just run the ball effectively in the first half that they didn't even have to pass. Then in the second half, they started having to pass. But good game. Scary Terry, 6 receptions, 98 yards. Zach Ertz, 4 receptions, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Really good game for Washington, 40-7. Marcus Mariota doing a really good job as backup. Granted, they're playing the Panthers, so that's what happens. Andy Dalton, 11-16, 93 yards and 2 picks. Bryce Young came in, -4 yards. We're not able to pass the ball. I think Devontae Johnson could be traded here soon, or even Thielen, if Thielen is healthy enough to be traded, because, they deserve better. I think Devontae Johnson would be another good asset for our team as well. I just really need someone with size that's able to go up and get it, a veteran kind of receiver. Chuba Hubbard had a decent game, 17 carries, 52 yards and touchdown, but they were not able to do anything. This was a bloodbath. Chiefs, it was a terrible game. Not really going to go over this game. Patrick Mahomes had 2 picks. The run game that was about it. Brock Purdy had 3 picks, so Brock Purdy really cost them the game in the end. 2 of them were in the red zone. Steelers had a great game. I'll give them credit. They had an awesome game. Good for them. You played well. Jets looked terrible, so I'm just skimming over these two because I really don't want to talk about them. But Steelers looked dominant. Jets are 2-5, which is kind of laughable. On to Monday night's game. This one came down to the wire. I didn't really see this game as much because I was so focused on the Ravens Monday night game. That's why I think having 2 Monday night games is stupid. You should have 4 games in the Sunday afternoon window because you want to give the team on Sunday night and Monday night a chance to just be watched. Just 1 game. Not 2, because you can't bounce around with 2 unless you are able to split screen that. So Herbert had a good game, 349 yards. They just weren't able to convert any touchdowns. It was a field goal type game. James Conner was able to kill it like usual. Kyler Murray had a 44-yard run for a touchdown, but it was just a battle until the end, and Cardinals were able to drive down and pretty much seal the game with a field goal. All right, that is it for week 7 for the NFL. Now on to the games you want to talk about, the team you want to see, the Baltimore Ravens. All right, so we have a great game. It was scary at the start. Tampa Bay could do no wrong. Our defense needs to work a lot better. We were not able to. We just did not look good on defense at all throughout the entire night. They shot themselves in the foot a couple times. Baker threw 2 picks to Marlon Humphreys, which, I mean, both those were just. He wished that if he didn't throw those, I think this game's a lot closer, and Tampa Bay might have come out with a win. Our offense looked amazing. Our defense has not looked like the defense from last year at all. Marcus Williams looked terrible. Roquan Smith and Simpson just could not stop them in the running game. They were able to run at will with anyone they had. They were able to get the ball out pretty fast to the running backs in the pass game. The only sad thing for the Bucs was they lost Godwin for the year probably and Mike Evans to a hamstring injury. So in the first quarter, so that was really tough for them. But our offense looked dominant as ever. I really think that going forward, our defense will be the make or break as to if we win or lose games. Because it used to be the other way around, like last year, where it was the offense that would lose us games. Now it's the defense that's going to lose us games because they couldn't stop. 370 yards passing, 125 yards rushing. I mean, We had 3 sacks. Nice. But that was it. If you watch the game, you would see they could do no wrong on offense. They would just shoot themselves in the foot. We'd get a 1 stop, and that was it. But yeah, it was bad on the defensive end. Tampa Bay, I hope that they're able to regain some strength going forward, because I think that this team is a really good team, but really got hurt when Godwin and Evans went out. And that'll be tough to get somebody in here as good as Godwin. But Lamar Jackson, another MVP type level performance, 17 completions, 22 attempts, 281, and 5 touchdowns. So that was really good for him. Derrick Henry, 15 carries, 169 yards. They didn't run him as much in the first quarter because they kind of starting to see that as you get into the third and fourth quarter, if you keep Derrick Henry's legs fresh, he could just run over people because they're exhausted. And boy, did he. Lamar, 9 carries, 52 yards. And a great game from, I'll start really quick. Justice Hill, 3 receptions, 44 yards and touchdown. Pretty good game from him. Not as much in the pass game for the others, but the 2 that I love to see that have been vocal points as of recently from a fantasy perspective and also from who needed to break out this season for us to be good was Bateman and Mark Andrews. And boy, did they. Bateman, 4 receptions, 121 yards and a touchdown. He was able to create so much separation. And it was amazing. It was so awesome to see Bateman like that. He didn't step up the first 2 weeks, and ever since we started winning, he has just been a huge vocal point. Zay Flowers didn't do much this game. He got kind of an injury scare, which scared me, but was able to come back from it. But seeing Bateman like this was amazing. Mark Andrews, 4 receptions, 41 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was great when it came down to the red zone. We could do no wrong on offense, honestly. 244 yards rushing, 264 yards passing, because we had 2 sacks. But wow, we did well. Defense needs to play a lot better. We had 5 passes defended, and 2 of them were Marlon Humphreys. Like, either we need to be able to get to the quarterback or we need to have better corner play, because we've been facing some tough teams, and credit where credit is due. Tampa Bay is a really good passing team, but dang, they kicked our teeth in with the run game. We're supposed to be number 1 in the running game. The numbers don't look like it, but if you saw, it was 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards. They could have just run the ball the entire time. But an amazing game. Came down to the stretch. We gave up in the fourth quarter. It was 41-18, and then they scored 2 touchdowns really quick. The score was 41-18 with 6 minutes left, and by the 2-minute warning, it was 41-31. I was like, why? Don't stop on defense. The defense just looked exhausted. So definitely need to work on our defense going forward, because the matchups don't get any easier, really. We're going to have the Browns coming in here, which that'll give us a sense of relief in the pass game. We just really need to stop their run, and we should be good against the Browns. But on to Week 8 previews. Let's see what we got on the docket for this week. Ooh. Vikings and Rams. Yeah, I'm going Ram. I'm sorry. I'm going Vikings here. Vikings are a really good team. Even if the Rams have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they're not good enough to. They're not what it should be. So Vikings should win this game pretty easily. This is probably the morning games. I would say that this game here, the Falcons and Bucks, is the game of the morning games, but since Baker doesn't have Godwin and probably won't have Evans, I don't think that that's how it's going to go. This is probably the game of the week here. Eagles and Bengals. Bengals favored by 2.5. Whew. I don't know. Like, the Eagles have a decent defense. Bengals have a terrible defense. Bengals have a really good offense. Eagles have one of those offenses that is hit and miss. So I would lean more towards the Eagles, but I don't know. This is the only toss-up game I think I'll probably have throughout this week. So, but I'm leaning more towards the Eagles. Ravens and Browns. 10.5 is a bit much, in my opinion, but it is what it is. I think the Ravens will win. It'll be a pretty dominant win. They won't have a chance in that front. I hope our defense is able to lock up. Our offense is looking great. I just want to see the Ravens lock up on defense like we used to and what we're known for. Lions and Titans, yeah, 11. I think that that's really possible. The Lions should win this one. Ravens will win that one. Jets should beat the Patriots pretty easily. I don't think by 7.5. Falcons and Bucks. I'm going to go Falcons just because Tampa Bay, they lost Godwin. They lost Mike Evans. It is going to be very tough for them offensively. They're going to focus a lot on their running backs in the run game and in the pass game with the running backs. So this came down to the wire before, but I don't think it's going to now. But you never know. Falcons just lost to Seahawks, so could be a closer game. Green Bay, I think, beats Jaguars. Jaguars, their 2 wins have been against terrible teams. So Colts and Texans, I don't really see this one being close either. I think the Strouds will take care of business. Chargers and Saints, I think the Chargers will win this one because Saints just do not look good. Maybe if they have Olave back, maybe look better on offense, but you never know. The afternoon game, ooh, this is a good one, I'd say. Bills and Seahawks. I think the Bills will win. Seahawks are a good team, but the Bills are really locked in right now. I think they'll be able to win this game. Denver, Panthers. Denver, obviously. Chiefs and Raiders. Chiefs, Jesus. Bears and Commanders. The Bears are I think the Bears are favored because Jaden Daniels isn't playing. But if Jaden Daniels plays, the Commanders win this. If they don't, if he doesn't play, then the Bears obviously are going to win. Cowboys and 49ers. Sunday night game. I'll go 49ers. Cowboys are iffy. Cowboys can play really good or really bad. So, I don't know. I think that the 49ers at home will be able to stuff the Cowboys. And then the game of the week on Monday, guys. Game of the week. Giants and Steelers. Wow. I don't know who to pick. This is going to be one of the best games of all. Wow. This is tough. I don't know who to pick here. If you can't sense my sarcasm, it's because I'm trying so hard to not be sarcastic, but it's pretty obvious who is going to win this game. If they don't win, I'm going to laugh because it's the freaking Giants. The Giants beat themselves more than they play the team. And you got Daniel Jones as quarterback. Enough said. So Steelers end up being 6-2. That'll be good for them. Get two good wins for them. But maybe when the Steelers play a better team, I give them credit. They beat the Jets. That was their first good team that they've beaten. Good. I'm proud. It does show that they can maybe play up there with the elite teams. So, yeah. Sorry, I just saw Stephen A. saying that Jared Goff should be the league MVP frontrunner over Lamar Jackson. And I just want to show you here, right? So we see the stats simultaneously. So 1,610 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 18 and 10 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So he beats him in every category there. Let alone Lamar Jackson runs the ball. So that gives him more of an advantage. To me, I think that Lamar Jackson, if he was up for MVP, he would want it to go to Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry has been the MVP for everyone this season. He leads the league in rushing. Let's go to stats. Season leaders. How about that? So we got Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson. Out of those 5, Baker and Lamar are the only ones that can say that they're in the MVP race. Now, you see this big gap here. Theirs is 100-yard difference. Theirs is a lot. Look at this. 537, 540, 658, 660. And then there's Derrick Henry, 873 yards. Shoot, if he has more than 130 yards next week, he has 1,000 yards after week 8. We're not even halfway through the season, and he would have 1,000 yards. So, yeah. And that sucks here. Chris Godwin's second in receiving. Now, he's not going to be up there. I mean, Nico Collins hasn't played 2 weeks, and he's still 4th. So, nice. Marlon Humphreys is now second in interceptions. That's good. Kyle Van Noy is still up there, 2 sacks behind. And then Roquan Smith is second in tackles. But, man, I'm just looking at stats here. So, as the clock winds down on another great episode, I want to thank you all for listening. My schedule, like I've been saying before, every Wednesday at 12, my episodes should be up and ready for everyone to watch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Make sure to post something on my Instagram page to let you know my episode is up. I will also be making Instagram stories or Facebook stories that are able to be seen, so you can see them on either of those accounts. Make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you prefer. Also, feel free to comment or ask a question you want me to bring up. You want me to answer a question before we start on our normal going through the NFL and Ravens stuff. By all means, I have no problem answering or addressing those questions in my next podcast. So feel free to comment or ask any questions you want on my podcast. Also, all the music and sound is provided by my brother-in-law, Justin. So again, Justin, thank you for that. Well, Ravens Nation, thanks for joining me on this episode. Until next time, stay fierce, stay loyal, and keep rooting for that purple and black. I'll see you next time on The Ravens Call.